good morning and welcome back to Sip Sip Knit. My name is Kim and I'm the host of this channel. If you're new here, this is where I like to talk about what I've been up to in my hobbies, in particular the fiber arts, called Sip Sip Knit, because I do tend to often have a beverage I'm sipping on, whether it's a craft beer or coffee. Today it is coffee in my Run West Virginia mug. I am coming to you from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but I did grow up in West Virginia in the central part of the state near, like, if you're familiar with New River Gorge area, those are some of my favorite trails to spend time on. Anyway, going back to current situation, I live here in Pittsburgh. My partner, Pat, we have 2 dogs and 2 cats. The cat's currently chilling on the coffee table, wondering what I'm up to. He may or may not come and say hi. But yeah, this is the podcast where I like to talk about mostly knitting stuff. Talk about my knitting projects, what new things I've been doing. I recently took a sewing class. I recently took a steeking class for knitting. So we'll talk about that today, and we'll talk about what finished objects I have, what I'm currently working on, and what I've been up to in life. So I'll grab a sip of coffee here and we'll get right into the fiber arts and project discussions. So guess we may as well start with finished objects. Today I'm wearing one of my finished objects, which is the Musselburgh hat. This is a very popular pattern by Isolde Teague, and the beauty of this is that it is sized based on your gauge, so it's very easy. I wouldn't say easy, but the pattern makes it so that everyone can have a really great fit of hat. You can use any gauge of yarn from a light fingering, I believe, up through a DK. I used a sport weight. The sport weight I use is from Manistel, Uruguay, in the Clara base, which is a non-superwash, I believe, single ply wool. I got it in the clearance bin at a local yarn shop a few summers ago, I think, and couldn't quite figure out what to do with it, but it was a beautiful skein of yarn, so ended up being a Musselburgh, and I am so happy because the yarn is just so soft and the pattern just fits perfectly. So in the pattern, you start from a cast on at the crown and you increase out, and once you get enough fabric to measure your gauge, you then measure your gauge, and there are multiple charts in the pattern that tell you exactly how many increases you need to use based on your the size that you want for your head. I believe that there's a pretty wide variety of sizes, and you pretty much just pick your yarn, choose the needle that you want for the type of fabric or like what type of gauge you want, and then the pattern just does all the math for you. So you then knit a big long tube that is tapered from the cast on, and then once you get to a certain length, you then decrease and then close up this end, and then it gets folded into itself like so. Just kind of put the top in here, and voila, you can wear it either slouchy, like I tend to like to wear it, or you can, there's enough length that you can then do a rolled brim, which is also a pretty popular way of wearing it. But I just kind of prefer the slouchy, like a little bit of extra space there for things to have. I don't know things, but anyway, it's a comfy, cozy, and very warm hat because for mine, it's 2 layers of sport weight at not a super tight gauge, but enough so that you don't get a lot of wind circulation. And with it being a non-superwash, it really fills in those gaps. So very, very pleased with it. I love the colors of yarn. There's like blues and oranges and peaches, salmons, like all the natural colors that I love. So next finished object, I've been making these scrunchies, which is a pattern by Tori Knits. Tori Knits NYC, I think is her Instagram handle. I don't remember what she goes by on Ravelry, but she has several patterns, some sweaters, some accessories, but this is a free pattern for her Soho scrunchie. Let's see if you can kind of get a little bit better color definition here, but the pattern calls for using leftovers or scraps or minis of fingering weight yarn held with mohair or lace weight. So I used a very light fingering held with mohair. The fingering was this acrylic or some kind of synthetic, very fine fingering weight from Joann's, I think the Loops and Threads line that they have. And the mohair is like this tortoise shell, like brown, black, a little bit of like white, beigey flecks. But it's from Rags Fiber Arts, which is a local yarn shop, local yarn dyer. She, her shop is in the Greensburg, Pennsylvania area, so a little bit outside of Pittsburgh proper, but she does participate in the Steel Valley Yarn Crawl, has an amazing yarn shop, and she also dyes yarn. So it's always worth the drive out to the Greensburg area to visit Rags, I think. And she does have a well-rounded selection from other yarn dyers and other yarn brands. So, and she does an event, I believe it's twice a year, called Rags Fiber Affair, where she has a lot of other local vendors, small businesses that come and vend, and it's just sort of a all-day mini fiber festival, like in a fire hall or something. Varies, I think, based on the location. But yeah, Rags is great. Got on a little tangent, but that is all I have in finished objects with knitting. So I will delve right into the whips category because I'm working on a third Soho scrunchie. This one I'm keeping for myself, but I knitted one for my friend Larissa. I'll pop a picture of her finished one. I used like a hedgehog variegated yarn held with a blush, well, actually the same mohair that I'm using here, which is from Magpie Fibers. This was left over from my sorrel sweater, and I'm using fingering weight. For this one, it's from Shirsty Cat. It's a 75-25 sock weight yarn, superwash merino, etc. And this is what I have so far. So for this pattern, you use size 6 circulars. I'm using Magic Loop, and you do a provisional cast on, and then you flip it inside out, put a hair tie in, and then graft the two open edges together. Yeah, just a super fun free pattern, a really great way to use up some of the leftovers that you really still want the personality of the yarn to shine. So unlike using it in a scrappy project where a lot of that kind of gets jumbled together, I like how the scrunchie you can still really let that particular yarn colorway shine and stand out. Another sip of coffee. I don't know if I mentioned, but it's relatively early. I got up, made some coffee, fed all the animals, and then decided to just dive into recording before I did anything else today. So I am on my literal first cup of coffee. Next whip is a sock. I have too many sock whips. So for February, I came to terms with my 11 whips that I currently have that are it's kind of giving me a little bit of anxiety, but her reasons. Partly, part of it is just that simply I want to cast on all the things and I have a short attention span. But secondly, I've been doing some traveling and life has been a little outside the normal routine. So I've decided or opted to cast on various projects for various situations. So that's sort of a long story short. But anyway, I have way too many sock knits, sock whips right now. But, you know, of course I decided to go ahead and offer to test knit for my friend Lee Knits, who also has a YouTube channel. But she has recently begun designing patterns, and this is her second pattern, a sock called the Hand of Thetis. I don't know that I'm saying that correctly, but here is the sock. It's really great because it's business in the front, party in the back kind of situation. Stupid window behind me is making everything more difficult, but we're gonna persevere. So this is the front, just vanilla, and then you turn it over on the back. I'm halfway through the leg. And so the pattern has this seed stitch texture and cables that come down and meet here near the center, and then it begins to expand back out as you approach the heel. It's kind of trying to get it. There we go. So you can kind of see the texture and the pattern. Really pretty, very unique. But for this, I'm using Ex Libris fibers in the colorway You Burr Me in her Soul Knit base, which is a 4-ply sock base, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. I've had this in my stash for way too long. I don't even know that she makes this colorway anymore, but it's beautiful. It's got like these really moody burgundy shades with little lighter blips of mauve for extra drama, and just very, very pretty. So I'm happy to be able to finally put that to good use. Oh, with the needles, I'm doing magic loop, and I'm using Addy size ones, which are, I think if you compare to other needle sizes, it's more like a 1.5, but I'm getting good gauge. So, and that's what I use for a lot of my socks. I go back and forth between Addies and Chalgoos mostly, but I get about the same gauge on the Addy 1.5 ones technically, as I do with the Chalgoo ones. So yeah, I use them sort of interchangeably. All right. Yeah, like I said, I have a couple other sock whips and items that have been kind of neglected in hibernation, and I've not really, truth be told, worked on them very much since I last recorded. So I'm kind of just going to show you the more relevant items. So recently, after finishing my muscle burrow, I allowed myself to cast on my Cryptid cowl. So a few summers ago at the Pittsburgh Knit and Crochet Festival, I picked up this skein of Mothman yarn. It's inspired by, well, I think she had a whole Cryptid series. This is Dye Mad Yarns. And this is a worsted weight based on the Mothman. So if you're familiar with that cryptid and the folklore there, I'm from West Virginia, so of course I am interested in the Mothman. There was a whole movie made out of it, so if you're not familiar, look it up. But love this colorway. It's gray with these vibrant flecks of reddish purple, very spooky. So I've been sitting with this in my stash waiting for the perfect pattern. And then Jamie Lomax, Pacific Knitwear, she also is, I also made the Autumn Doodle cowl by her. but she specializes in those really fun color work chart cowls. So she made a cryptid series where you could choose from 3 different charts, either Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, or Mothman. So I'm like, of course, the Mothman. So I'm not very far in. I have just gotten past the ribbing at the bottom and have not even begun to use the Mothman yarn because the pattern has a little base of like the scenery below before really getting into the Mothman thing. So you can't really see what's happening right here. It's going to be a lot better when it's all put together. But I'm using Brooklyn Tweed tones. This is a worsted weight. And the Zest an overtone, I believe. So with each hue in this series, there's an over and an undertone, like a lighter than a more subdued, or lighter brighter, and then a darker, more subdued. And then I'm using leftovers of this yarn I used for my Wanderling sweater. This is Ex Libris's newsprint colorway. So you have like silvery gray with some darker gray charcoal bits, speckles. So yeah, once I get to the main part of the Mothman chart, I am going to use the Mothman for the background and then the bright chartreuse yellow green for the character, like the character, the monster and the trees, no, the things besides the background. Oh my goodness, I need more coffee. All right, and then last whip I'm going to talk about this morning is my Humulus sweater. I've been working on this since technically Christmas, or like the day after Christmas, I think I cast on. But then I got past the yoke, split for sleeves, and realized it was going to be way too oversized. I wanted it big because the pattern does call for 6 to 8 inches of positive ease, I want to say. But this was just gigantic, like way more ease than that. I think now, even with my modifying and going back, I still have probably 8 to 10 inches of ease. But I ripped it all out, deliberated on whether or not to change the needle size, go down a whole size in the pattern, or both. And I opted to just go down 1 needle size, and that has worked out very well. So I went down from a size 6 to a size 5. And then I used a size 4 on the ribbing around the neckline and around the sleeve cuffs and then the bottom of the body. So this is top down raglan, and it has this really pretty yoke with hot flowers, which I really gravitated towards because of my love for hoppy IPAs. So very pretty. Here is the bottom part. I have one sleeve done and the other most of the way done. So I'm hoping to finish that sleeve today. I think I could do it. It's a worsted weight, not super tight gauge. Yeah, I'm confident I can finish this afternoon or this evening. I'm using Brooklyn Tweed Shelter for the main color, and the Storm Cloud colorway. So you can see the flips of tweed, and unfortunately the blue bits are not showing very well on camera, but in better lighting you can see that there are also, in addition to the natural tweedy bits, there's some blue tweedy bits. And then for the contrast color on the yoke, I used Spin Cycle Dream State in the Verba Volant colorway. Here's what I have left. So it's like this fun mix of Eastery pastels. So like light blue, pink, pale yellow, but really kind of like blending together and shifting. Very fun, creating this kind of effect that I think balances really nicely with the darker gray of the Brooklyn tweed. My yarn ball just went flying. That's fun. Luckily, all the animals are napping. Nobody's going after it. Okay. All right, so let's talk about sewing. My friend Lindsay and I, Lindsay's been on the podcast a few times. She's Crafty Vegan Dog Mom on Instagram and Ravelry, but we decided to go to a Sewing 101 class at Workshop here in Pittsburgh. This is a local small business that, in addition to having crafting supplies and fun, unique, locally made or small business made products, they also offer a whole array of classes, anything from woodwork to knitting and sewing, just a whole broad spectrum of things to learn. But yeah, I took Sewing 101 and I made this really fun tote bag in this spooky fabric. The class was really nice. It was limited to, I think they limited at 5, and there were 3 of us in the class plus the instructor. The instructor, Hillary, was just so patient. She walked us through the whole process of using a sewing machine for the first time, like where all the controls are, what everything does, how to wind your bobbin, how to thread the whole machine, get everything set up from scratch. And then she went over how to like cut your fabric, how to press your seams. Just everything was very well put together in a way that you felt like completely guided the whole time. It was just great. So anyway, I'm hoping to get a sewing machine. I have not bought one yet because my sister kindly reminded me that she has a sewing machine that was my grandmother's. My grandmother passed away like 20 years ago, but my aunt had it for a while, and then my aunt just gave it to my sister, and for some reason my sister has just been sitting with it in her closet for the last several years. She doesn't sew, so I'm going to take a look at it and see if it can be refurbished and try to find a place here in Pittsburgh that can do that for me. I've not done any research, so if anybody's local and knows of any good shops that specialize in sewing machines, please leave a comment. Would greatly appreciate. But yeah, it's a Singer Fashion Mate. I forget the model number, but I looked it up and it was released around the late 70s, which definitely makes sense for my grandmother's age and when she would have been sewing. But the photos my sister sent, it looks like it's really in great shape. It just probably hasn't even been turned on in at least 15 years. So we'll see what happens when I get my hands on that. So my sister Amanda and I are going on a road trip to New York City in a few weeks. So she's going to drive here to Pittsburgh. She'll bring the sewing machine with her, and then we're going to drive from Pittsburgh to New York and stay for a few days. We have an Airbnb in Brooklyn. It's her first time in the city, and I haven't been in like 7 or 8 years. So I'm very excited to get back and check out some new restaurants and do some fun new things. We're going to go see a Broadway show. I have tickets for that, and we have a whole huge list of restaurants and craft breweries we want to check out, in addition to the typical sites that you tend to want to see in New York. We're going to try to find a good place for the views that may not be your typical like lookout tower. Like if there's any good rooftop bars or rooftop restaurants where we can kind of get the view but not just stand in line for the heck of it just to get the view. Because I hate doing that in cities. It feels like such a waste of time to wait in line for a few hours. I mean, to anyone that wants to do it, that's great, but I always look for a way to hack the system. Like my boss, ahead of my trip to Chicago around Thanksgiving, was giving me some pointers, and she directed me to the Hancock building. So they do have a paid experience where you can go out and they have like the glass floors. There's a bar there. I forget what it's called, but there's also this older lounge and restaurant that is a floor above the experience situation. So the restaurant it's like higher end, has a dress code, but there's the lounge that doesn't have a dress code. You can just come, wait in line, and all you really need to do is buy a drink once you get to the bar. And the lines are way shorter than the experience. Typically, we waited for maybe like 15 minutes. So not bad at all. And we got a cocktail and sat and watched the sunset. And it was a way better experience than just like standing in line for one of the more expensive things. Yeah. Anyway, big tangent there. Anyway, we're going to New York City and my sister's going to bring me the sewing machine on our way here. But I've been watching a few YouTube channels of sewists, just trying to get some like beginner tips on how to get started, what type of patterns to look for, just the basic supplies I might need. But if you know of any good channels that you would direct me to, if any of y'all are sewists, would love any suggestions on that. Trying to not go too far down the rabbit hole yet until I at least acquire a sewing machine. The teacher was really great at directing us to some other resources here in the city. Like there's a local fabric shop and sewing studio called Cut and Sew and Firecracker Fabrics. They are kind of attached. I've not been there yet, but everybody has rave reviews of them. My cat is coming to hang out. And they offer other more advanced, beyond just like the basics class at Cut and Sew. And I started following them on social media, and the fabric selections just look so fun. And Luna's coming to say hi. And Pepe. All right. So sewing, yes, we'll eventually do that more. I have so much scrap fabric that I want to like put to good use, and like old t-shirts, old like concert things, dogs and cats. Break it up. All right. So the next thing I've been up to is this week, a few days ago, I took a Learn to Steek class at a local yarn shop. So Yarns by Design in Oakmont, it's a suburb of Pittsburgh. One of my favorite local yarn shops. They have Thursday night knit group that I've made several friends at. It's a really nice, like low-key casual group with a lot of fun personalities. Anyway, they offered a Learn to Steek class, so I took a PTO personal day on Thursday. I went to that. So your homework was to make 2 swatches out of non-superwash. So mine looked like this one. This one is one for me to reinforce the skills at home, which I've not done yet, but I will. At least I have a practice swatch for whenever I have a project that I want to just like remember or like refresh my memory on how to steek. Anyway, she walked us through how to do the crochet reinforcement line around your steek, and then once that is in place, then cutting the fabric. It is really not as complicated as you might think, but it is still scary. And I think I do want to try a few small little projects. Like there's a few cozy patterns that they sent us where you can make like a coffee cozy with a little button band. But Jody, the teacher of the class, was really great. She walked us through a lot of the button band, picking up basics, which I mean was, I think, a bonus on top of the steeking guidance, but very fun. and useful class. All right. Take a little break here. Pepe, come here. All right. Pepe's come to hang out. He's just gonna curl up on my lap and listen to me chat at y'all. All right, so other stuff. I've been pretty busy with some, in addition to the sewing class and the Steeking class, I did the work trip to Vegas. I have another work trip coming up this week. Unfortunately, Las Vegas again. It's another conference, another whole similar situation, but thankfully I'm only going to be there 2 nights, so that won't be too bad. I've been diving back into bouldering, so like indoor rock climbing. Early in January, they were offering those like New Year's specials, and my friend Larissa and her husband Eric have been going off and on for the past year, so she invited me to come along. I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. It'd be something fun to do in the colder months of the Pittsburgh winter. And I think it'll be a fun way to strength train and develop some better body mobility, flexibility, and it's just like a whole new challenge too. So I've been bouldering 2 to 3 times a week. I usually will just go for a few shorter sessions and then maybe a longer session if I go with Larissa. But it's really fun. And it's so much more strategic than I originally thought, you know, going into it. I mean, I've done it before on numerous occasions. I already had climbing shoes and the whole thing, but I just never, it's like I found myself being willing to focus more on some new things and develop some new skills, where I feel like in the past, for whatever reason, I just did not have the focus to learn enough to enjoy it. But I'm liking that, so I'm just going to keep going with it and hope that I don't, you know, take on too much. Sip Knit. So the knit group that I host at Necromancer Brewing, we had one early February, and that was a great success. We had a really nice turnout and some new faces that joined. The next one coming up is Wednesday, February 22nd. I unfortunately will be traveling for work. I'm super bummed, and but the work trip kind of came up all of a sudden after I had booked that date at Necromancer. So Lindsay, Kelly, and Jenna, they have all committed to being there and sharing the hosting duties in my absence. So I hope anyone that's local will come hang out. And then there is another date on the calendar after that for Wednesday, March 15th. So I will put those couple dates in the show notes. So if you're interested in attending, just check it out. It is free to join. Just come, bring a project, doesn't matter what kind, and get a beverage. They focus on craft beer, but they also have a few hard seltzers and wines, and then some non-alcoholic beverages as well. Pepe, please don't do that. It's obsessed with the vent. Don't know why. He's actually going, while we're on life stuff, Pepe has had some recent health issues. He had a kidney stone, and he's also, we're doing a medication trial for his high anxiety behavior and poor litter box usage the last few months. So knock on wood, Pepe has like 4 stars this week for great litter box behavior. So Pepe, we're going to keep the trend going, right? Yep. Oh, yes. Last thing I want to talk about is I got a knitting related tattoo. I'm going to flash a picture here so you can see the close-up shot that Haley took of it. But Haley, some of you may know her. Her handle is Lock Knits on Instagram and Ravelry. She used to host a podcast called The Woolies until she moved to another part of the state and has now started a new podcast. The name is escaping me, but it's with her friend Katie. So I've yet to check that out, but look it up if you're interested. But she is a tattoo artist and a knitter. So while she was in town for the Pittsburgh Tattoo Expo, I booked an appointment for a little knitting ghosty. It's all bandaged, so I'm not gonna like show you, and it's kind of, the ink is bleeding, so the lines are not super sharp. So picture here. But yeah, yesterday was the expo, so I went and saw her, and she gave me some fun little goodies in addition to snacks and water for post tattoo. But she gave me some stickers and a little enamel. Is this enamel or acrylic? I don't know. This cool pen and some stickers. She's great. She also makes project bags and is just a woman of all the crafts, literally, because she knits, she crochets, she sews, she tattoos. What can't she do? But yeah, I think that's about all I have to chat about. My coffee is just about broken, meaning it's almost empty, and I need to go make another cup, and I need to get some breakfast, and I want to get some knitting and relaxing in, and hopefully get out on the trails with the dogs. The sun is poking its head out, and it's going to get up into the 50s this afternoon. So I've been waiting for their walking, and we're just going to go to the park and hang out outside for a little bit, get some sunshine and fresh air. But anyway, I hope you all are having a wonderful weekend, and I hope to record much sooner than last time when it took me a month. But I will talk to everyone soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye. All right, so I packed away all my tripod and my ring light and realized that I didn't talk about my acquisition. So I'm just going to take a quick little minute to talk about that. So I bought 2 sweater quantities. So this is the Fiberco Cumbria worsted weight. So as you can see, kind of a tweedy yarn with some tones of blues and greens. It's hard to see here. Let me see if I can get some better light. Oh, that's good. So this is a mix of Mashable, Merino, and Mohair. Hi, Luna. But I swatched for this and am spot on with gauge for making the yoga cardi, which was on my Make 9 for last year. So it's a textured, oversized cardigan that you can just throw on over anything, hence the name Yoga Cardi. So I'm going to cast this on soon. And then, so I already had this mini set from Coats & Co. that I got from a yarn shop in Chicago. This is a BFL base called Homestead Wool. So a fun little mini skein set. But I decided to try to find a fingering weight that I could stripe in these minis for the Stone Crop Pullover by Andrea Mowry. So I found this, also the same base, just in a fingering weight, Cumbria, and this really nice, like deep teal, like forest green, depending on what kind of lighting it is. But I'm going to stripe that. I'm not going to use, sorry about that. I'm not going to use the forest green mini. I'm just going to use these ones. And then the Cumbria will be my main color with these ones striped in. So the stone crop is color worked stripes with some textured stripes. Very cool sweater. But I purchased that pattern not too long ago. Didn't have the yarn, but I did have the minis. So I bought this Cumbria base to go with that. So yeah, I will probably cast that one on next. I'm thinking. I'm very excited to knit it, but I've been long overdue to make the yoga cardi. So, and I've already swatched for the yoga cardi. So maybe I'll cast on the yoga cardi and then swatch for stone crop just to kind of scratch that itch. But yeah, Luna, say hi. Oh. Yoshi says hi. All right, anyway. Oh, is Yoshi coming? Where's Yoshi? Where's Yoshi? There you are. Hi, buddy.